All right, folks, welcome to the November 12th, 2025 Bar Large meeting in the public meeting room at 2 George Street. My name is Trey Watkins. I'll be serving as the chairman this afternoon. The other board members present this afternoon are Luda Sobchuk, James Metters, Seton Brown, and Joel Grantham. City staff present today are Lawrence Courtney, who is our staff architect, Brad Thomas, our staff architectural planner. Applicants have been required to submit any documents in advance of the meeting. Staff will control the slide presentation that includes everything submitted by the applicant by the deadline in accordance with the submittal requirements. You're welcome to try to move the slide yourselves. Just point it this way and we can help you if you need additional help. Applicants simply need to ask staff to advance to the next slide during the presentation. Applicant, staff, and board members are required to give their name when speaking. The meeting is being recorded and live streamed to the City of Charleston public meeting channel on YouTube. Your appearance here is your consent to be recorded. The order of the meeting will be as follows. We'll start with an introduction and overview of the project by city staff to the board and for the public. Next is an applicant presentation. This is a 10-minute time limit or is determined by the chair and with any questions of the applicant by the board or staff. Any and all presenters should clearly state their name for the record. Persons affiliated with the project, whether that's owners, developers, designers, consultants, etc., should speak during their portion rather than the public comment. Our next section is public comment. All applications are part of a public meeting. Written public comments were due by noon the day prior to the meeting, and any received comments have been transmitted to and considered by the board. Written comments will not be read aloud during the meeting unless requested by a member of the board and with permission of the chair. Any member of the public who wishes to be heard in person, an agenda item at this time is requested to state their name and address for the record. And to be reminded, there is a 2-minute time limit for these remarks unless extended by the chair. Applicant does not respond to comments made during the public comment portion. Next section is our city staff comments and recommendations. That is then followed by a chance for the applicant to respond or clarify to the public comments and the city staff comments and recommendation. This response time has a 5-minute limit and the applicant does not have to use the applicant response period if they do not feel it is necessary. We'll then have our board discussion and a vote. The applicant presentation is over. Public comment is closed. The applicant may clarify inaccurate information when recognized by the chair by raising a hand and waiting to be called upon. Board members will be polled by the chairperson for comments and for their vote on a motion. The chair shall reread a motion verbatim, and the board member making the motion should correct the chair if he has not reread the motion accurately. Once a motion is in proper order and seconded, each member when voting should respond yea in favor or nay not in favor. And the results will be posted on the city website at www.charleston-sc.gov/BAR. No items have been withdrawn or deferred. We have not received any written public comments. And finally, as a reminder, please turn off all your cell phones or other potentially disruptive devices, and please limit your comments to architecture only. Comments related to zoning, such as parking, traffic, and lot coverage, as well as livability department concerns, are not within the purview of this board and cannot be voiced here. All right. Look for approval of the minutes. Minutes have been circulated. Are there any changes or a motion?
Motion to approve.
All right. Is there a second? Second. All right. How do you vote, Mr. Trantham?
Yay in favor.
Mr. Brown?
Yay in favor.
Mr. Metter?
Yay.
Ms. Sobchuk? And I'm also yay in favor. The minutes are approved. All right. That takes us to the applications, item V1.
All right. I am here filling in for BD Worthen Bell, and she asked me to specifically record the person that makes the motion and the person that seconds the motion. So please humor me with that one and help me make sure that I get that down. I need it. So item B1 is 245 Hughie Street. Excuse me. excuse me. Of course. Item B1 is 230 St. Philip Street, which is the mock-up for building 4 of Courier Square Phase 2. It is new construction in the Annenborough, Elliottboro neighborhood. It is in height districts 2.5 to 3 and 3.5, 4, 6, and 7. It's in the Old City District. The applicant is requesting approval of the mock-up panel. So with that, Brad's going to show us some context, after which the applicant has the floor.
All right, we'll take applicant's presentation.
Thank you. My name is Dylan Sal with LCP. I'm here to represent our client Great Star on this development at 230 St. Philip Street. As Lawrence mentioned, this is building 4, so we've come before previously on building 3 a few months ago, and now seeking approval for the mock-up for building 4. I did want to thank the board members that were able to come out to the mock-up meeting the other day despite the chilly weather and changing temperature, and appreciated all the feedback that we got on site. A couple things I did want to mention ahead of reviewing some of the pictures and discussions with the board. Some of the conditions that you saw out in the field, as is often the case with these mock-up panels, are not always represented in the same fashion on the building. In a couple of cases, I would point out the intersection at the base between the brick and the siding at the patio does not actually exist on the building. That brick base wraps around the entirety of the building. So that's an example of a case that doesn't actually exist. And there's also a couple places on the second floor of that balcony that we were indicating different treatments of the cornice as it goes in front of the balcony condition and the siding adjacent to that. Again, that's not a true representation of what happens on the building, just an intent to show the detailing and the design. With that, you all saw some of the details that are here represented on the building. Out in the field, we were able to get the special shaped bricks in there and matching flashings for that. And again, the porch conditions that are outlined with the brick base we talked about earlier, and then the second floor porch here that's noted. I won't go into details again. These are just the upper floor portions of that parapet piece and the balcony at the 3rd floor. And some of the head conditions out there at the site. So I would welcome any comments and feedback you guys have on this. Again, appreciate the time and look forward to hearing your feedback.
Thank you so much. Any questions for the board while he's still up here? Okay. Any public comment? Seeing none. All right, city staff comments and recommendations, please, Lawrence.
Right. It has been observed that various conditions on the mock-up will not exist on the actual building. And while this is avoided as much as possible, it is not unusual because of the compressed nature of the mock-up. Several items were mentioned as needing further attention. These include the minors at the channel siding, outside corners, pronounced seams at copings and flashings, that the glazing appears to be tinted a little bit and should be clear. The through wall flashing should be minimized as much as possible, or it should be held back from the face of the brick. And that some flashings have an obvious picked out drip nosing at the bottom that should be avoided. And while staff believe that most, if not all, of these issues can be successfully addressed by the construction team, it was understood that the mock-up's purpose is to represent the standards of workmanship to be executed on the actual building. This mock-up falls short of adequately representing these adequate standards. Staff conditions. The many deficient and conditions, including those noted above, need to be corrected before the board is out for another review. And with that, staff's recommendation is deferral with board and staff comments and conditions.
All right, thank you. Any response from the applicant?
Yes, thank you, Lawrence and BZ, for the comments. I would like to address a couple of those just quickly, as we review them on the field as well. I have every bit of faith and confidence that, as mentioned, the contractor can execute this building highly on the site. A couple of things, a few of them that we saw on the site, I believe are conditions that came about from our change in weather that happened. We all know a lot of these materials will expand and contract over time. And we had a 50-degree swing in temperature between the time they were installed and when we observed them on site. I felt like we observed multiple locations, and I'll talk about the channel gap siding first, where we did see 2 locations on the upper portion where it did appear to start pulling slightly apart, albeit fairly minor. I would say the rest of the channel gap, as you look down the building, was as we expected and tightly held together at the corner. The conditions with the flashing at the corner as well, unfortunate, I believe, were an instance where we were reworking conditions based upon trying to execute these details correctly. And as executed, were not ideal. However, there were also cases where you would see the mitered corners on the majority of the building, or the majority of the mock-up, excuse me, that were executed properly in our opinion. So I think there's plenty of examples that indicate this has been pulled off on the mock and will be pulled off on the building. Lastly, as it relates to the glass, I think that was kind of an optical illusion. It's hard. We looked at it on site pretty extensively. The glass between building 3 and building 4 is identical. So we did look at that. And I think just due to conditions out on the site, whether it be shadow or light and construction activity in the background, they may appear different, but they are all the same between both. And it's not a tinted glass, it is a clear glazing. So that's all I've got at that point, but I appreciate the feedback on that stuff.
Great, thank you for that response. All right, board discussion. May want to kick us off?
Sure.
Okay.
With Dylan, I went last week, and then I went again today. And so I've got items. I may just get halfway into them and stop. You'll get the idea. But the siding panels you just mentioned. I see that a gap or hole where the concrete deck meets the siding panels on the left-hand side of the porch. You can actually just stick your fingers in there, and there was, I guess, a little piece of trim was just miscut or something. But you can see it, and I have photographs if you want me to show them to you. The bricks in contact with the trim at the base, and in other cases, the mortars in contact with that material. That could be a result of a condition that's not going to exist. And I tried to figure it out. Looking at the drawings, I couldn't figure it out. So I mentioned it, but I wanted to acknowledge that. Cracks and heads of nails up on the different layers that make up the fascia board up towards the top. And I couldn't figure out how the bottom of the soffit engages. I mean, it looks like that bottom of the soffit, it was just a crack right there. And just couldn't figure if that was intentional or what it was. And again, I got pictures of these that I can share with you. The bottom rail on the right-hand side is just not connected. Again, that may be a condition that gets remedied in the regular full construction, but it, you know, it's either stopped short or was just not connected on the right side. I can't really figure out the cap flashing. There were a lot of places where the flashing was coming across the parapets or some, but it didn't align. You know, and there was one maybe 8-foot section, but there was a joint in that 8-foot section, and there's gonna be a joint, and I get that at some point, but didn't know why there needed to be one, you know, there if we wanted to show what that flashing was looking like. And then there was like 2 layers of flashing in some areas. I wasn't really sure, you know, what that was. I mean, there were a couple of things that when I looked directly at the plan, I couldn't see how it was exactly like the plan was. And maybe it was just a field, you know, field adjustment that you were aware of, but I think that it should be tightened up.
Thank you, Mr. Metters. Any other board comments?
I think the other items that I noted too, I did bring up the window, there, and I think if it's the same glass, one had clear, you know, sky behind it and one didn't, so that could have just been an optical illusion, and I don't think it's something this board, if the applicant has said it's the same glass, then it's the same glass, and I don't think that's a comment that we need to address here. So I think that can be withdrawn. But there were a series of small, just craftsmanship items that we noted that said would be remedied in the final construction, noted the mitered siding that we discussed about, but there was exposed and grained in some areas of the fiber cement. You know, there were the seams in the columns that are not supposed to be in the real final construction. There were, I noted the coping disjointed laps at the top too, and some flashing areas that were not tight, not in as much detail as you just noted here, but I don't need to go through all of those as I did. And my specific real concern is the miter corner of the siding, because that's a critical design feature. And if in 10 boards, 2 are splitting, I mean, that's a significant amount of the detail that we're trying to see. And we're going to see temperature swings throughout here. And I would want to make sure that that detail is actually going to hold together on the building. I like the detail. Wouldn't want to see a corner board there. I think it's actually a well-designed detail, but the execution of it is one I think that's of critical importance to this project. So seeing that successfully executed is important.
Thank you, Mr. Trantham. Mr. Brown, do you have anything to add? Subject.
Well, with mock-up panels, coming back again and again, it's all about workmanship, and we constantly facing same issue. Where's the workmanship, which will be represented on actual building? One of the things, this is first mock-up panel which I attended to look at, was behind the fence and couldn't get close enough to look at some of the details, but some major details like mitering and things like that is very visible. Details which are not actually will be represented on building very visible. So I agree with staff comments minus glassing.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion for deferral with board staff comments. And condition.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right. All right, so the motion on the floor is deferral with board and staff comments and conditions. Mr. Trantham, how do you vote?
Yay in favor.
Mr. Brown,
Yay in favor.
Mr. Motors,
Yeah, you can.
Ms. Subject,
In favor.
and I didn't have a chance to review the panel, so I am going to abstain. Motion passes.
Okay, and the next item is item B2, which, as I previously misspoke, is to 45 UG Street. It is in the East Central neighborhood. It is new construction. It is in height districts 412 and 5. And it is in the historic corridor district. Brad is going to give us some contact, and then we will turn it over to Mr. Ramos.
Good evening. My name is Steve Ramos and I'm with Ramos Architecture and Design, and I'm here on behalf of the owners of the property TMGOC. It's been a little while since I was here for the conceptual BAR. Fortunately, the project was really well received at conceptual BAR, but there was some really good critique. So I'm going to start the presentation by talking specifically to the critique that was received at the last meeting and highlighting how we've addressed that. This is all the critique. There it is.
Thank you.
So this is a critique again, where I've just kind of added the notes to the previous rendering. So all the notes on the side are critique received from board and staff. And these are the old renderings, which I'm also not going to read, because I know you all did your homework and read it last 10 days. But I will talk to this slide. So this slide is the new rendering up top, the old rendering down below, and to the untrained eye, it looks pretty similar, but there are a series of small revisions. I'm just going to go down the list, and these are numbered to respond to the comments. We talked a little bit about stucco at the last meeting, and I was asked that I show all of the stucco joints. So there are stucco joints, verticals at every window opening, as well as horizontals at the slab. Fortunately, the building is very ordered and rhythmic, so the joints just naturally kind of fit into the design. Number two, there was a pickleball court on the roof. That is no longer, we realized it was going to be kind of hard to design a structure to keep pickleballs on the roof. So instead, we are using an amenity I think more people will enjoy. We've added a pool to the roof. So there's a pool now with some cabanas and a tiki bar on the roof. Number three, there was a comment that the second floor ballroom windows were kind of tall in relationship to the ground floor windows, and you would expect the ground floor to have the tallest windows. So I've tweaked that. I made the ground floor windows a little bit taller and made the second floor windows a little bit smaller and pulled the sills up. So now when you look at it now, there's a clear hierarchy. Number four, this detail where the brick wrapped and touched the kind of the taller mass, that junction was a little clumsy. So now we've kind of pulled that brick mass back. There's a control joint, so it's a really clean intersection of masses. Number five, Mr. Metters had asked about the sidewalks and just hoping that we maintained the setbacks and the large sidewalks. We have maintained all the setbacks. In fact, I think we pushed some of the areas back just a little bit more. I do want to point out that not part of our doing, but the city is redoing the sidewalks and streetscape on Hugie. And right here at the intersection, they're widening the street a little bit. So the curb is actually coming closer to our property, but we are still maintaining a minimum 10-foot sidewalk, and in most places it's much greater than that. Number six, hotel entrance. I think it was Kevin Everly that was here. He made a comment about the entrance not having enough hierarchy, which was here. And so I made a series of just subtle changes. Most notably, I removed the arches from these two bookends to kind of keep it flat until you get to the entrance. I also lowered those heads just to put a little bit more hierarchy on the center. So it's really subtle stuff. Almost done. Number seven, there's a round window in the corner. You're going to see I changed the mullion pattern to make it a little more ornate. There was comments about brick detailing being really important. So now that this is a preliminary, I've added well, I've added details to the drawing set, but also added some more ins and outs to the brick facade. Flood barrier designs have been included in the jam and sill details that are in the set. And just a couple more that we did, we reduced the building height by about 3 feet. We just kind of took some height out of the intermediate floors where we just didn't need as much height. And I've tweaked the ground floor storefront mullion pattern. I was very rigid about the grid last time. And so at the ground, it's still very gridded, the windows, but at the ground floor, they're just larger expanses of glass where you would expect them to be. So this is a series of renderings of new and old. Again, largely the same, but you can just see, I like the proportions of the windows here, just a little bit better than they were before. So it's just a subtle tweaks to the design. This is the corner. Here you can see just the tweak to the round window. Instead of a strict grid, it's more of a radial pattern. There is a letter M right in the center that's kind of hidden in there. This is intended to be the Montfort Hotel, and that's what that M represents. This is the west facade. This is the south facade. Just subtle things like continuing the water table across the bottom. You can start to see the tiki bar there at the south. This is the southeast corner. Subtle changes to the window size. It's just at this one corner. This is the southeast, or or northeast corner of the building. This is Hugie Street here. And this is an aerial view that is a real vantage point if you were on a car on the overpass. So kind of looking down at the building. And I'm going to kind of race through these 2D drawings, but can always come back to them if there are any questions. The existing site plan. These are all the buildings in orange are buildings that have actually been to the BAR. There's actually one tonight. This one here that's going to be here. So there's this is a changing area. New plan up top, old plan below. Nothing of really any substance other than we've just further tweaked the interior of the building. I'm just gonna kind of skip through these until we get to level 5. Level 5 is where we had a pickleball court, and now there is a pool deck on the corner. And level 8 is the top floor of the building where there'll be a restaurant and some roof deck space. And then the mechanical was kind of hidden in a well. So we've got a sloped roof, then there's a well that's pretty deep. It's about, I think, 8 or 9 feet. The equipment that's going to be on this roof is going to be tall. I included the precedent images just because I've been looking at a lot of brick detailing in the corner. Really looking a lot at this arch that's right across the street. It's just kind of ripe full of ideas of things you can do with brick. And then these are the 2D elevations. This is the north elevation at Hugie Street. Again, new on top, old on the bottom. This is the south facade. West. East. These are drawings of the pool deck area where there are some smaller structures. This is the streetscape at Hugie. This is Meeting Street. I've included some images of the buildings that are planned for this area that will be our neighbors eventually. here's some images of materials. I brought some with me. For the main body brick, I'm looking at this brick, which is actually a blend of 3 different colors. They're all kind of similar, but there's some variation. For areas where there is like a cornice or below the storefront windows, I would go with 1 brick color, which is brown, which is one of the 3 that's in that mix. That's what this is. And then a couple small pieces, where we have brick, the sills and a couple of the bands are going to be cast stone. That's kind of this buff color. And then this is FRP. So in the taller stucco part of the building where we have window sills or cornices, it's going to be FRP, which is a composite material. It's going to have a sand finish that's going to basically look like the cast stone. We use this because it's light and strong, and it's much easier to attach to the building than a heavy piece of stone. These are the building sections. And now I'm on to the details, and again, I'm going to go through these are just like, this is a key that shows you where some of the critical details of the building are. These are water table details at the base of the building. The water table will kind of project out 4 inches. There's going to be a blue rose brick. I always forget the different brick orientations, so I now just put them on the drawing. So remember. We're going to have some arched headers as well as flat headers. Where they're arched, they won't have a steel lintel, but when it's a flat header, there will be a steel lintel. We also have this kind of unique custom header that will curve here at 80 feet. These are cornice details in the brick where we're orbling the brick with big profiles. And then this is the parapet detail that occurs right here and here. Got a balcony detail that occurs here. Got some canvas awnings at the ground floor and at level 2. This is a detail of the canopy at the entrance. It's kind of a simple kind of I-beam profile. Here are stucco details. There are pilasters that go full height in this kind of center section. That's what this detail is. And then they show the headers and the sills at the stucco windows. This is at the top of the building where we've got some big overhang. There's a continuous balcony across here. These elements here, these brackets would be FRP as well as that coping. This is the last slide. I believe we have addressed the comments from the last meeting, and I think the details have developed very nicely and have just kind of added more to the design. And so at this point, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great, thanks, Steve. Question from the board?
I have one.
Go ahead.
Steve, I'm trying to find the page number here. Is it 315 or 316?
Is it the canopy or,
No, it's the stucco. It's the stucco.
I think that 3.
I just lost it again. So the control joint. And, when I zoomed in on the elevation, you could see what I thought would be, are the control joints. And I think I'm just gonna take a minute, see if I can get it back up here.
What's up, Chuck? Do you have any, we'll do that when this man responds out.
Have you already started to design the pool area and pool itself?
Well, so not beyond the level of kind of the drawings that are in this set. What your question?
So the question is, how deep is the pool?
It's about 3.5 feet.
It's all about the roof.
No, it sits down within the roof. So there's a drawing, you can actually see it. So this section is here. So that level below there is a taller floor.
So you drop the ceiling and all that and
That's
that.
right.
And
But we've intentionally added additional height at that level to knowing that the pool was going to be above it.
not visible on your renderings, that additional height, I think.
Actually. So it's to see how this level
Yeah.
is taller. We've added 4 feet at this floor. And that's to accommodate that pool drop. And so that's basically here. It works well with the facade because we've got a nice big cornice, but yeah, that's where it's hidden at this level here.
Okay, you know, the piping and everything is hidden. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
One more question. FRP, is it molded?
That's
Uh,
right. Yeah, so
details?
they'll make a form and basically the window sills will be a molded piece.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's not mitred and things like that.
Yeah, it's not a bunch of pieces put together. It would come out to the site as a molded
Right,
piece.
it's not field construction.
Correct.
Yeah, okay,
That's right.
that's kind of, thank you.
So 360. Yeah, so you're looking for. Okay, I'm looking for this. I might be just, I can't, it's the control joint from, yeah, there, just the bottom left. So in the inside corners where that control joint is for that. And that's just like a piece of back rod and color.
There's actually the control joint, there is an actual kind of like J-channel piece that makes that joint.
So it acts as almost like a screen then that you,
That's right. It gives a place for the stucco to basically stuff.
okay, so it's like a termination.
That's right.
And are all of those, just, I tried to look at it on the elevation, I just couldn't see it, but are most of them on inside corners or not?
So anywhere that there's a jamb of a window, see there's a line right there, and right there.
Yep.
So basically they occur at every vertical jamb. And then yet, of course, any actual inside corner like here, they would occur. Those are the easy ones because they just kind of fit seamlessly into the architecture. And then there are horizontal joints at the bottom and the top of the slab.
And that doesn't create a, where the horizontal piece comes into the vertical piece, that area between that strip, that termination strip, when that gets plastered too, that's waterproofed.
That's right.
Okay. And I see in that bottom left photo again, it looks like there's a jamb of a window, but the stucco just kind of goes back to the face of the material. And then you actually have, just a joint back rock or something where the jamb goes into on the right-hand side of that.
Yeah, so the key is that we need the storefront to project enough to basically cover up, basically create an overlap.
So you feel like, I know you have because you got it on the drawing, but you feel like the longevity of that stucco is going to feel pretty good. With the seven, I mean, you're using a 3-coat system with the drainage mat. I mean, the assembly looks great.
Yeah, I think the key thing is that this is a concrete framed building.
Yeah.
That's post-tension concrete. And so we are limiting the amount of movement in the building, whereas a stick-built building just naturally has more movement. So we've got a concrete frame. We're going to be using heavier gauge studs. And although it is a tall structure, because it's attached at every slab, it's like almost like a series of 11-foot tall structures because every top and bottom of the floor is braced. And I think that's what's key to minimizing the amount of issues that may occur.
Sure.
whether it's brick or stucco.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Trainer.
Yeah, I have a question as well. I know there's been a lot of conversation about the brick and the stucco as we've moved through here, but I also have a question about the glazing. And I'd like you to speak a little bit more to that. Really kind of your intentionality behind it. Obviously, every window frame and mullion is the same. The
Yeah.
grid pattern between each element is the same. I believe you're making a conscious decision. How that kind of fits into your overall design aesthetic and why it's kind of appropriate for this building, if you can kind of talk to me, because the glazing is a significant square footage and portion of this building as well.
Sure. So a majority of the windows will be aluminum storefront windows, so that's the profile you're seeing in the drawings. We've got some that are larger that, like these, that may be curtain wall, but from the exterior, they will appear the same. The windows are all large, so that is why we're using a storefront system versus, say, like a unit window, like a residential style window. The typical window in a hotel room is about 9 by 9 feet. So, and they sit right on the floor. And that's a typical hotel room window, but then we've got windows that are about 12 feet high. These ones are even taller, so it's a matter of accommodating that size, and the storefront or curtain wall is kind of best for doing that.
And is there a reason why the proportion of the grids and let's say something within the brick section match similarly the stucco section match the other areas? Is there a reason why you feel like that better relates to this building? Because essentially by using storefront, you can kind of choose the proportions of the glazing panels intentionally. In this pass, it changed at the ground level. And so I'm just curious if you feel it's critical, that those and kind of why.
Sure. Well, you're right. You can put the volumes wherever you want in storefront. And from the get-go, I just looked at all of the buildings in the area, and there was just this pattern of using a grid. And I think it was to kind of create this industrial aesthetic. So that was just an initial design choice. And then using it as a kind of a cohesive thing to stitch the building together just made sense to me. But at the ground floor, you just generally expect to have larger panes of glass where you have storefronts. And so that's why I've chosen to differentiate it at that one area, which is the ground floor. And then, of course, the round corner window was a little different. I think I'm always trying to balance having as many common elements as possible, but also having variation. But it's always kind of a juggling act.
Thank you.
Can you tell me more about the pavilion? We kind of skipped over that part, but the pavilion on top.
The tiki bar.
Yeah, the tiki bar.
Which I'm just calling it that. It's not gonna have a thatched roof or anything.
205.
So it basically sits right here on the southern side of the building. And it's basically a structure that's gonna have a bar, an open bar on one side, some restrooms and a very small kitchen. So it's a really simple structure, solid stucco on the back, but then on the front side, it's, open air, which I guess you can kind of see it right there. And so I wanted to make it a simple structure, but to pull in some details from the building. So it kind of talks to the top of the building. So if I go to a rendering where I can see both. Okay, you can kind of see them, but the pavilion structure has a lot of the same kind of language as the top of the building with the standing seam metal roof. It's got some columns that have kind of some brackets on the top. And so I was kind of creating similarities, but not copying them. I know that the structure is going to be visible from certain areas, so I added a little cupola or monitor on top just to add some interest to to that top. If that answered your question, or?
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
Yeah, back to the windows. Did I understand correctly that you have jam extension as a part of the storefront?
No, the storefront would just be sitting, it basically spans that gap, basically the sheathing gap to cover up the stucco joint. So it's not an extension, it's pulled forward from the stud to create, to cover that gap.
Okay, so it goes around the corner at the opening?
We'll go back to the detail. So for example, at the brick, you can see that basically the storefront is pulled forward about an inch from the base of the substrate. So that's how you cover up the return of those materials. So the similar conditions happens at the stucco. So you can see, here's the slab edge, and then the storefront projects about an inch past that to basically make an overlap.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I believe that's all we have for now. Thank you so much.
Sure.
All right, any public comment?
Anna Catherine Alexander with the Preservation Society of Charleston. We would like to thank the applicant for meeting with us on this proposal. We really appreciate the refinements made in response to board and public feedback. We just have a couple of comments that we would like to reinforce at the preliminary level pertaining to ground floor treatment and material quality. So at the conceptual level, we encouraged the same level of activation on the Hugie streetscape as Meeting Street. And when we met with Mr. Ramos, he indicated that the project team was exploring options to introduce additional points of access at the ground level on Hugie Street. We do feel like this would go a long way to create a more dynamic pedestrian experience on Hugie. So we would ask that the board make this a condition of approval. And lastly, we really appreciate the discussion about the selection of stucco as the primary building material for the largest portion of this building, but we do continue to have reservations about this from a performance and longevity standpoint. As a compromise, we were thinking that introducing brick into the flanking 8-story masses of the building could be a method to limit the stucco to the bays in between those areas. So that would be something that we would offer for consideration as this project moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right. City staff comments or recommendations, please, Lawrence.
Okay, there are several pages of previous board and staff comments, which I will not go into. The board has those. So the current ones are the applicant previously received conceptual approval by the board on April 9th of this year. At conceptual, the board and staff asked the applicant to study the following: the oculus for a different light pattern for hierarchy and to enhance in the role of its decorative design, to study the scale of the second floor windows on the street volume to study how Meeting Street and the street volumes intersect. The elimination of pickleball court at the roof on the Meeting Street volume, given the aesthetic implications of such roof in terms of possible screening and so forth. To focus on brick detailing. So also to depict all the junction and the control joint points that are endemic to stucco on frame. Now, I think Mr. Ramos has done a good job of explaining what he's doing with that. Consider signage or sort of detailing to more articulate the central entrance. Staff support the applicant's revisions of the new detailing at the oculus, the size of second floor windows, the relationship between Meeting Street and UG Street volumes, which now abut rather than overlap, the elimination of the pickleball court at the roof, the brick detailing as shown, which is interesting if you look at it more closely. This stucco joints as shown are minimally intrusive, and as Mr. Ramos explained, we have less concerns about them now. And the ground floor to have flat openings as the normative and conditions, so that arches at the entrance are given more prominence. This is staff support interior details, and staff support additional revisions to the ground floor mullions and the reduction of the overall building height by 3 feet. So that brings us to staff conditions. Bring physical samples of materials to final reviews, some of which we have seen this evening, perhaps a lot of, most of. And staff's recommendation is preliminary approval with board and staff comments and conditions.
Any response?
No response.
Great, thank you so much. All right, we'll move in board discussion. Anyone like to start us off?
I can go ahead and start off.
All right, thank you, Mr. Crane.
Thank you. I do like your flood panel detail. I think it's actually quite refined. I did look at that. And then my staff noted that the fact that it's flush with the brick and not an appendage to the openings, especially given I know at the beginning we granted additional height, is a nice detail. as it's been resolved. I know we asked a series of questions here and some of my other board members might have some other comments, but there's been significant refinement, especially in the brick and a variety of the other details. The patterning examples are nice. I think there's a layered textured, approach that you've taken to the brick that's subtle, but also detailed, which is, I think, lacking in a lot of buildings and defines a lot of the historic buildings that you've used as references. And so I appreciate the additional information that's been added here. The reason why I asked you about the windows though, is as I was looking at the images provided to those brick photos, is seeing the hierarchy that's established within the window systems that are in those brick openings, that either there's a series of assemblies that go up like one cool blow that you submitted, or which probably has the most similar window type to what you're proposing here. Or like the cigar factory where those are unitized windows, but very tall. And there's some elements that help mitigate, some of the feeling. And looking at it, there is a nice simplicity to the fact that the windows read with a common language throughout the entire project. But I wonder if it wouldn't benefit, especially in some of the taller windows, of having some hierarchy within those systems. And I would kind of look to that to see, you spent much more time with this building than I have, so I wouldn't give a prescriptive approach to that, but looking to see if you can kind of resolve some of those so that, the other brick structures that you're referencing that have those elements, can be brought into this building. At the ground level, I know there was a change from the arch to the flat top. I kind of like the arch better. I felt like a simple thing, but again, it's not something that I'd kind of leave that up. It does seem like a better way, as preservation has stated, to maybe engage Hugh Street, which would be, I think, something that would be beneficial to this project. So if it offers an area for you to reach out by changing that and designating a different area, I think that's an approach that I would support. I think that's most of my comments. I don't know if anybody else.
All right, thank you, Mr. Franklin. Anybody else comments at this time?
I appreciate your comments and I don't have anything to add.
Fantastic.
I just want to go back to food. It's pretty on the rooftop, but so we are dropping 4 feet at the height of the building, I guess, the main building. But just, I guess we need to make sure that the all design and piping and all that, we're not adding the height to the building. So.
Thank you. All right, well, we have to entertain a motion. If there's no other discussion.
The final to board.
The staff, the staff recommendation was preliminary approval with board and staff comments and conditions.
Okay, but do we see final?
Yes.
I think, given the comments that Joel's made, just to make sure that we have respect for that I'd make a motion for preliminary approval with board and staff comments and conditions.
I second.
All right, so motion before is preliminary approval with board and staff comments and conditions. Mr. Trantham, how do you vote?
Yay in favor.
Mr. Brown,
Yay in favor.
Mr. Metters,
Jennifer.
Ms. Supchik,
Yeah.
I'm also yay in favor. Motion passes. Thank you. Here's stuff, yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We're at B3.
And so next is 578 Meeting Street, which is in the east side. It is in height districts 3.55. It is in the historic corridor district. Brad will show us a little bit of context. And then we will turn it over to Anju.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anshu Philip with Dynamic Design Architecture based out of Atlanta. I'm here on behalf of Florida Development Group. For Ellison at Meeting, it's located at 578 Meeting Street, the old industry building location. We have presented the preliminary approval, preliminary presentation like a couple of years ago, so we are excited back to be here presenting the final DAR. And in terms of on a high level changes that we have accommodated for this project is basically addressing the preliminary DAR comments, as well as clarifying some of the materiality and finishes and details that go into the final design for the project. So just going through all the elevations. So we have all the BR comments, staff comments, as well as board comments here. And we have provided responses as well as the sheets that is pertaining to all those details. One of the main concerns, one of the comments that we had was having specialty pavers next to the Regis building or having almost like a specialty paver banding between the property line and the building. So in front of the Regis building, we kind of left it as it is with the concrete finish, just to maintain the originality and the preserving the historic integrity of the existing building. But we have added specialty pavers on either side, leading into the alleyways, into the food courtyard and the amenity area. These are renderings on Meeting Street. There are no major changes. We did take into account the staff and board comments to revise the renderings to have everything at the same time of the day, like a daylit, not have any kind of dusk or a mix of dusk and a daylight renderings. So everything is rendered at the same time. So you can see the material finishes and the colors consistent throughout the renderings. These are some enlarged areas of the landscape, alleyways, and this is the elevation along Meeting Street and Stewart Corner. No changes from the preliminary BAR approval. These are streetscapes on Stewart Street. This is the corner of Stewart and Nassau. No change here as well. And this is one elevation we did have a little bit of a significant change based on our coordination with Dominion. So we had previously accounted for transformer walls on the Johnson Street side. And once we got deep into the design elements with Dominion, we had to shift some of those transformer walls to the Nassau elevation. So these are the transformer wall areas, and this is the only elevation that has changed from the preliminary BAR. And one of the comments we had was the elevation difference from the window sill to the pedestrian level. So what we have addressed here is kind of varying the heights of the planters to mitigate that elevation difference, and having some creative soldier course written details from the windowsill all the way to the planters. And the other comment we had was in regard to the use of fiber cement panels. So what we are proposing, once we had the FRP panel as the previous proposal, we started working through some of the details in the vendor. And since these are apartment units, we have a lot of penetrations in the FRP panel systems. And it is causing a lot of delamination over time, as well as crack and warping. So we are proposing the fiber cement panel location used for mainly the grid frames that we have on the Meeting Street main building. Into elevations.
You point maybe back towards us, sometimes it picks up easier.
So we have this grid along the Meeting Street main building behind the Regis. So previously we had accounted for FRP panel system, but as we are trying to eliminate any kind of penetrations facing the main Meeting Street area and trying to put it all on the sides along the alleyways, so it's not easily visible. But each apartment unit is having almost 3 to 4 penetrations, so that was creating a lot of on a durable and long term. It was coming into having a lot of delamination, warping, and cracking concerns that was brought up. So we tried to utilize the fiber cement panel and trim details to replicate the same detail that we had proposed previously. Wanted to point out these are few building overall sections. So we have a content for that detail here, recreating it with the fiber cement trims and the fiber cement panel. So it will still have the same frame around the building, replicating the same design as previously approved. That is along this area. So this is an elevation from the alleyway, and you can see the penetrations, the flush vents that are part of the design. And one of the staff comments was to include a mock-up panel sheet. So we have provided that with all the elements that is part of the design with different brick depths and everything included. We kind of color coded the brick veneer and the details here, and kind of color coded here what is the offset of the brick veneer from the building. Main building frame. So that is kind of giving you the depth that is for each detail. We have taken all the specific elevations across the entire project and included details for each condition. Those were the main items that we had included, and just adding more details for clarification of the details that was requested from the preliminary review process. So detail between the brick, and again, so the same frame profile that we created with the fiber cement, we are including that in all the buildings, just to create that banding. That is one of the main detail change that we had to incorporate based on what we got as feedback for using it. Apart from that, the design still stays the same. Just the main changes is the transformer vault location in Nassau Street elevation changed quite a bit because of the addition of the vault. But rest of the elevation of Stewart, Johnson, all of that remains the same.
Thank you. Any board questions from the board?
I have one question for Johnson and Nassau Street too. That's 06 is the number. In those two renderings, it looks like that we've also changed the parking garage entrance. From what was just regular windows to shading. And then the removal of a green wall where I believe a drainage easement is.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that? I know that the program hasn't changed in the,
You're talking about this area?
yes, ma'am.
You're talking about the previous preliminary versus the current. So for the drainage easement, we were kind of advised not to have any kind of permanent trees or shrubs on there. That's why we had to remove that and just show the plain building at this point. And we have done the same along Johnson Street as well. So even for the stair entries into the apartment units, the landscape team has proposed like granite steps, not anything permanent structure, which is going about the easement.
And we adjusted the glazing on that building as well.
Yes, that is this corner. So we have-
The building to the right, excuse me.
yes.
Yeah.
That's-
Thank you.
This corner also, since the walls moved, we added back units here, so there's more glazing and more residential at the corner.
I have a few questions too, if nobody else.
Yeah,
has.
please go ahead.
Sorry, this is my first time seeing this, so I'm just trying to, I spent a lot of time sitting with the drawings, just trying to fully understand the entire project from preliminary to current. So, few just simple questions are, is this located in a flood zone?
Yes.
Okay, so at the openings that are, fronting, let me see if I can find the page that I'm looking at. BAR or B-AR-03A.
So we had included a sheet SPO5, probably it's towards the end. Or it could be in part of the appendix that we included with the package. So it has, it's very similar to what was reviewed with for the hotel project. It's very flush with the brick. And we are using the flood lots systems for the flood proofing.
Okay,
And there's isometric view on that SPO5 sheet, which kind of notes the areas which is under the floodplain, the corners of the buildings.
Yeah. Okay. And then, the materials at those storefronts, I wanted to make sure the kind of darker materials, are
Mhm.
those also fiber cement or are those, what material are those?
Those are fiber cement. There are shiplap systems as well as flat panels.
And I guess the flood panels would be going in front of those as well. And are they appendages or are they flush with those systems?
Flush
Okay.
with the system.
I noticed you have two brick colors and the lighter brick color in the drawings. The grills are color matched to the brick, but in the darker brick, they're kind of a dark bronze and offset from the brick. Is that intentional or can they be color matched between the two?
We're talking about
It's in your renderings. I believe it's the kind of building. I can find the page. I believe it's a section at the corner of Stewart and Nassau Street. Yeah. I'll find the page where. So through most of your BAR A5 or say, sorry, B-A5 -32. right there. In the lighter brick renderings that are kind of on the axon, the grills aren't visible, but in those, they're kind of a dark bronze.
Okay.
Yeah, and so is the intention that everything, it looks like within every material, when you have a grill, it's color matched to it. Is it the intention that they're color matched or that they're?
Means that's like a paseo entry right at that corner. So we wanted to match it with the fiber cement. Right, which is right above. So this is the paseo entry leading into the pool courtyard, from the Nassau Street. So we kind of color matched that with the fiber cement directly with, for the railing. Oh,
I'm
this
talking
one.
about the
Oh.
vents, like these,
Oh, sorry.
like the vents that are in the brick.
Okay, yeah, that will be covered.
Um, Those are basically my general questions right now. I might have some more later, but I think that's it.
All right, any other questions from the board? All right, thank you so much. All right, any public comment? Seeing none, all right, city staff comments and recommendations, please, Lawrence.
All right, again, there are a couple of sheets of the history of this, which I'll not read. But the board has, and they have that. The applicant received preliminary approval on this on June 28th of 2023. At preliminary review, the board and staff asked the applicant the following: bring physical samples of materials to review, particularly related to the use of the vertical wood-like fiber cement. Should the proposal fully in streetscape and context and provide renders at the same time of day. Continue to study the blank wall at Nassau and Stewart Streets. Is that right, or Johnson? Pardon me?
Let's do it.
Stewart? Okay, thank you. At Nassau and Stewart. Look at the placement of specialty pavers to ground the buildings. Consider the use and color of fiber cement materials relative to the issue of authentic material. Thickness of material and ability to find material in large sheets. Staff supports applicants' provisions of renderings, which now show the proposal and in context, as well as daylighted at the same time of day. The introduction of planters at varying heights, as well as brick soldier courses, details which help to mitigate the tall area of wall prior to the bottom sills of the windows. That might be below the bottom sills of the windows. Staff supports the specialty paper design as shown on sheet BL01. Staff look forward to seeing materials at this presentation before forming any any recommendations? We have seen them. They look pretty good. Previous staff asked board to weigh in on the use of stair riser lighting, noting that as drawn, it would not be acceptable in some parts of the city. Actually, I would say in most parts of the city. Current staff are more comfortable with the use of stair riser lighting for safety and functionality as shown here. Staff support the potential mock-up panel as shown on B A505 as it will show the constructability of most significant moments, but encourages comment from the board if there are any construction or detail moments that they would like to add. Applicant states that the fiber cement panels are available in 4x10 and 4x12 sheets. Staff wants to make sure that the large sheets that are used are available in thicknesses of 5/8 inch minimum. While fiber cement panels are not typically approved in other parts of the city, in this case, all of the public facing facades are faced with brick, and the fiber cement panels, while visible, are used on the interior facing elevations of the design. While previous staff asked for a signage package at final review, our current practice is to have a separate signage package, and applicant has been advised by staff to provide the complete and cohesive signage package for future review. Staff conditions include that any fiber cement material is to be a minimum of 5/8 in thickness. Aluminum guardrails and windscreens are not to have any exposed fasteners. Any modifications to approved drawings that are required for code or for fire department compliance or contemplated during construction must be approved by the BAR prior to undertaking the changes. Any modifications or substitutions to the materials or elements approved at final BAR hearing must be specifically noted, reviewed, and approved on the mock-up sample panel. deviations from previously approved substitutions if determined by BAR staff during the after, during, excuse me. Deviations from previously approved submissions determined by BAR staff during or after completion of construction that are found to be a downgrade in quality of the project and inconsistent with the previous approvals are not approved, whether noted or not by staff during our review of four permit drawings. A separate sign package will need to be submitted for all words and graphics to be placed on the building, as these are not considered part of any of approvals or motions for this board discussion. And with that, staff recommendation is final approval with board and staff comments and conditions with final for permit review by staff.
Any response from the applicant?
Just wanted to quickly clarify on the 5/8 inch thickness for the fiber cement panels. So for the trims and the shiplap sidings that we have, we can definitely provide the 5/8 inch. But for the big panels, it only comes at as 5/16. And most of those big panels are occurring at the taller sections of the building. And we are trying to keep the shiplap and the trims at 5.25 or a 5/8 inch thickness. So that's something I wanted to point out. And we have samples of that too.
Thanks. What kind of substrate are those placed over?
It would be a hardy substrate for the most part.
Okay, and
Which comes with the panel system itself.
okay.
All right, thank you. Any other questions while she's there?
Yeah.
We've got a couple more. Hold tight.
So where can I see that detail of the large panel attached?
And intermediate.
Yeah,
items,
yeah.
you know?
Is it 71?
We do have through the detail here, which is A532.
About 32.
The fiber cement panel systems come with reveals. So the reveal system is what is proposed here instead of the exposed fasteners. panels.
And you're also proposing those panels for all of the elements that basically form your grids too on sleepers. Like I'm looking at detail 6 on BA522. That middle detail.
Yes. But it's just for the frame that we have, and then in between we have the ship. The ship website.
And then that frame would then, as you look at the front of the building, that's also the same frame that's proposed, that basically the entry at Meany
Entry,
Street.
yeah. It's behind the Regis building, yes.
Well, behind the Regis building, and is it also the same, because I didn't see that
The
detail
corner of
at
the
the corner? Yeah, the retail.
Yeah, just at the entry to the alleyways, yes.
So isn't this 10 or 12 feet height? Is there any intermediate?
There are panels available at that height, so that it matches with the floor to floor elevation, height. And that was what was given to us by the vendor.
So no screws, no.
No, it's reveal system, yes.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for the board while we have them? James, you seem to,
Okay.
you're good? Okay. All right, thank you so much. All right, well, we will move into our board discussion.
I'm just in agreement with staff comments and conditions.
Okay, thank you so much. Anybody else have anything they want to discuss?
I had a question for the board, being that I wasn't here at preliminary and conceptual. One of the comments that I noted from, as they were reading, is that from prior review, is that the project makes use of composite materials more than any other in a long time, reminiscent of Nichiha installations, which depict tight surgical smooth facades, but are not possible on large walls. And then the board also questioned related thickness, joint details, color application of fiber cement and FRP products. And so it appears from conceptual, which was a while ago, or from preliminary to now, there's not been much change in the amount of fiber cement that's been used. And so I'm just kind of curious what the thoughts were of the board at that time and kind of some of the direction, if y'all had any thoughts to kind of share that might illuminate comments at this point.
You know, I agree with what you're saying. So I still have the same thoughts that you had that we board comments, and there hasn't been much change to that. That I've seen.
But materials were approved with preliminary, correct?
But I guess the third point too is regarding colors, materials, intersections of material, we'll need to see more in final review and mock-up. You know, that was the next comment. And so as I was looking at it, I didn't know if y'all felt like in that conversation, was that the direction to move forward, or was there, you know, I'm just trying to get a better understanding of where it was.
But all things are kind of true, but there was do we think that it was looked at enough? And the modifications were. I don't know.
Only because it's out there. There was I didn't know if the board had any comments at all on the stair riser lighting or the comment about the BA505 for construction or detail moments to be added. I don't know if anybody has any comments on that or discussion on that.
I did have some comments on that. I think if the wish of the board was to move forward with final review, I think some of the elements that needed to be included are obviously the elements that are gonna be at the street fronts. That a lot of the elements that are in there are kind of where the building masses engage, but the, unencapsulated corner at the entry where the fiber cement's gonna wrap on all sides. That would be a detail I think that obviously needed to be included so that we could see the execution of that detail as it's not attached to the rest of the building, because obviously in the kind of panel configuration of fiber cement as it's been presented here, there's usually a lot of seams, slabs, joints, things that need to be clearly executed. And then some of the other mock-ups that we've reviewed, those are where the real materials meet the road, and is this material gonna work? And especially, I have some current concerns with the panel at, 3/8 inch being used, exposed on all four sides in a flood area, and durability, is that gonna be a material that's appropriate in that condition? And can it even be executed in the way it's represented here? So I think that needed to be included. And then I think there were some handrail conditions where they face the street that would be important to include. And I kind of saw, and it might be a question to the applicant, there were three kind of major, what I saw as kind of languages in this building. There was the brick facade elements. There was the brick armature with infill fiber cement panels. And then there was the fiber cement armature with fiber cement infill panels. And in the mock-up, as it's drawn, it looks like where the corner rotates, and I guess we could look at that. Does it actually show the detail where there's the brick armature to fiber cement panels? And it looks like there might be kind of a exposed condition, but was that element in the mock-up?
Yeah, we're happy to hear from you if you have a comment on that.
About this area. With the-
So where this, I believe it's where this corner wraps and those are butting in. It didn't necessarily have
Have a
the
detail.
element, but is that meant to replicate the sections where you would have?
In
go to
the
another
alleyway,
page.
yeah,
Yeah, in the alleyway where you kind of got a.
yes, the frame.
Yeah.
Yes. So we kind of took elements from each building, different colors, and all the materials coming into the market panel. This is, like you said, this is the frame along the alleyways. And this is along, this is the meeting street area. This is along the alleyways. This is Stewart and Johnson. That's Nassau.
Mhm.
And we have included two different railing details, which is one is the semi cantilever balcony where the court's installed to the base. And this is the half railing height, which is occurring at the top level, level 5. Terrace.
And I think those encapsulate a lot of areas. I do think there's a few areas at the ground floor, which is where most people will engage, which are, the storefront details should probably be included, the unengaged corner. And then some of the handrail details where they come up from the street. I think that just understanding those and exactly how they're sitting and working would probably be the three areas that I would say need to be included in a mock-up panel.
And did you also say a balcony rail system?
I think a balcony rail is in there. I think they had two balcony rail turrets. One is a protruding and one is an inset. So I do think you got that, but the street actually has a third rail type that's coming out mounted inside of the brick, which is different than both of those conditions.
Mr. Trantham, anything else for the applicant? All right, thank you so much. Continue.
One
Oh,
more thing,
you have one?
yeah, quickly.
Oh, we got you.
The thickness of the panel, so, we don't see the thickness of the panel anywhere, right?
You mean on the drawings or?
On the building.
Building, no.
Yeah.
It's
So it doesn't matter if it's 5/16, so 5/8.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it matters in sense of a lot of times it's installed in the details where it's on furring strips, exposed in areas where it can be hit, and it's a very brittle material at 5/16. And so especially that front corner, where it's a column, and that is in the detail where it's set on furring strips with no substrate behind it. And so at that point, I mean, I know we're dealing with surface level, but it's also like the durability over time of that material, I think is a concern.
Yeah, but they produce these panels, high density, in fact, 5/16s, like that. So that's why it is 5/16s. So I don't know, unless you are going reverse this whole thing and we're changing material. I don't see how we can have 5/8 when it doesn't exist.
Yes, well, I guess there's three languages that are on the building. There is a brick armature with the fiber cement infill, which is where those exposed corners are. So an element like that could be brought forward, which is part of what my question was related to comments that board had prior made. So there could be languages existing in the building that are being stopped short that could be brought forward that might be more durable and more appropriate in some of those conditions. And so I think that would be the question that I'm relating to.
Could you address that?
It's for the pedestrian level, and so like you mentioned, this material on the sleepers, we can definitely work on getting it more like having a strong backing behind. Definitely for the higher levels, yes, it can be on sleepers, not getting hit by any pedestrian or anything else. But definitely on the street level, we can definitely improve the details to have a strong backing behind these materials.
And I think that's an improvement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. You know, that those details will definitely be on the final comment side.
Okay, thank you so much. Further board discussion. Want to get information. All right. Anybody interested in a motion?
So, Lawrence, signage is not part of this. I know it says signage in a couple of places on the drawing, the signage is.
It's
Okay.
correct. It is not.
It is not at this time, no.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Final approval with board and staff comments and conditions. With we don't want to see that back to it.
I guess before we make a motion here, and I know you're in the middle of that, one, I would ask to modify the motion. One other element that we didn't discuss is the wood-like panels that are here, which are presented in a small scale, and that I would probably note that their use is contingent upon viewing it in the larger panel, because I don't know that I can make a call from that side whether or not these are going to look artificial or not, and they're at all the levels, and that was also one of the points from prior BAR discussion. I don't know if anyone had any additional comments on that before we move into.
And I think the bigger issue, I guess, for us is whether or not we want to, it sounds like to me, whether or not we want to put the permit review by staff or we want to see it again.
How would you address that then? How would you feel comfortable in knowing if that material is appropriate?
Well, I think we could, at a full scale, see it in the mock-up and know if it's appropriate. I think that just reserving that, hey, that's not a craftsmanship detail that we would be reviewing in the mock-up. We'd be seeing the posting material and know whether or not it's a fake material or not a fake material, and is it an appropriate material for this section of Charleston.
It's kind of constructability question, right?
Well, constructability, I guess it would also be, is the material appropriate in and of itself? Yeah.
All right, so that means we will see that from markup panel with those necessary, need to see it next level of the final. At the board.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
All right, that's the one clarification before the motion, and that's the staff comment about the 5/8 note. If you're hearing board
Yeah.
and staff comments, and we're saying it may be appropriate, I just want to make sure that's noted.
That's fair. Lawrence?
I, to me, again, everything hinges upon that being placed over an adequate substrate. I'm like Mr. Trantham, I'm a bit hesitant about placing that material on furring strips or furring channels or even hat channels.
Yeah, that's what I was asking about intermediate. Next,
Now, if there was a way to condition this,
Could be 5, 6 things with appropriate backing.
just yeah, I mean, find a way.
the bottom line, do we want to see 12 feet whole panel? How it will be attached in mock-up? Because that's where we're
Oh,
getting.
absolutely. I would.
I would also, it's a big part of the conversation here. So,
All right, so then I guess maybe let's check back to your motion then.
Okay.
Do you want to make it?
Okay, so final approval report and staff comments and conditions. With further modification of the mock-up panel. Per board discussion. And for review, for permit review by staff. Does that make sense?
I'm trying, hang on. The final approval with board and staff comments and conditions with modification of mock-up panel per board discussion with 4 permit review by staff.
And I assume that includes an adequate substrate on which the 5/16 fiber cement panel is placed.
And that's part of the board conditions.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's part of it. I think that's at least my understanding of the way the motion is presented is that's part of the modification of the mock-up panel per board discussion.
Mr. Chairman, for discussion.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Joe brings up a good point. There's a lot of thought was put into this last approval that we gave, and we to think about things. I'm not really sure that I heard that we thought about those things. You know? I'm not talking about design. I'm not, I mean, I appreciate you bringing that up. I'm not sure that I thought about that. You know? So maybe, Luda's suggested something that maybe through conditions and all of this conversation, which you have a recording of, that you can make sure that all of these conditions are met. And when you're reviewing the final permit set, right? And then we can we've already got some thoughts about the mock-up in the record. And I guess the question is that enough? Or do we feel like we should have some more conversation about, questions that were asked that may not have been totally answered? And I'm, this is discussion. That's all I'm doing.
I understand.
I
I think. Go
I
ahead.
think that we will see that only on the mock-up because, drawing is drawing. And our concerns will have to be resolved on mock-up panel.
Well, there is a motion pending. I've not heard for a second. The motion was final approval with board and staff comments and conditions with modification of the mock-up panel per our board discussion with for permanent review by staff. Is there a second on that motion? Did not hear a second. Would someone like to make an alternative motion?
I wasn't intentionally not seconding.
Oh, sorry.
Actually, I was really.
Let me give you some time there, Mr. Trantham.
In your opinion, Ms. Sobchak, was the comments at the prior board three that I read out, were those satisfied in this presentation of drawings?
Yeah, and we have to think about it's 2 years of this project been presented to us. And at the final, we're reversing. Because we have an opportunity to see on the mock-up panel actually what it will be.
Just, well, maybe I even need a clarification, because I didn't sense it as being reversing anything. Just did they answer the questions that we asked them to think about, in the plan? And then come back with them. So not, at least for me, not reversing it,
Okay,
but just,
so are we hung up on the staff final review or on final review to board?
I think what I want to be certain coming in partway through this review is that I saw conditions asked and I didn't see them answered, but if you felt like what was made before had been answered, then I feel comfortable seconding your motion. And that's what I'm trying to find out. And that is the
That's why-
quantity of the fiber cement paneling that's in this project that has stayed fairly the same between preliminary and final, in which there were comments about. And I just wanted to make sure that that had been addressed before seconding, and that's what I was thinking about. And you feel like that's been addressed. If you do feel like that's been addressed, then we're comfortable seconding.
That's why I made a motion.
Okay, then I'll second it.
Okay, so we're voting on final approval with board and staff comments and conditions with modifications of mock-up panels per the board discussion with for permanent review by staff. Mr. Trantham, how do you vote?
Yay in favor.
Mr. Brown,
Yay in favor.
Mothers,
yeah,
what's up, Chuck?
Yeah, in favor.
And I'm also yay in favor. Motion passes. Thank you. All right, item B4.
The next item is 200 Meeting Street, which is downtown. It is in Heights Districts 3.5 and 4. It's in the Old and Historic District. We will see some context here. And Mr. Johnston.
Great. Good evening. Good to see you all tonight. My name is Jeff Johnston. I'm with SMHA Architects, and with me tonight is Sarah Edwards, also SMHA Architects, and our client representative, Tyler Flesh. We're here before you tonight to talk about a revision. You guys have seen the submittal. The original submittal that was approved or previous approval had the interior slabs, which are now at two different elevations. We were showing them being demolished and being lowered to one elevation. And this Philippine shows that those slab elevations, the darker gray is higher and the lower gray is a little lower. And this original proposal is posing a couple of challenges for us. Number one, the cost, which I know is not a DAR concern. But the other is that there's some significant flooding on the north side of this property. And we're evaluating the options to keep the floors as they are, both high and low. And looking at different design solutions to make the existing floor slabs work. So we're proposing two revisions tonight. One is the creation of an interior court on Pickney Street, which is a Page North Street. This was our previous approved plan. Talk about the revision. So the things we've already discussed, I'm not going to talk about, but revision one is an interior court along Pickney Street, and revision two is a really reallocation of space on Meeting Street, which was a interior condition court to an exterior court given back to public space. A third revision, which is in the right of way, and I think is in the DRT, our DRC's purview, is the introduction of a slightly elevated sidewalk on Haines Street. We flip slides here. I'll talk about revision one first. These are the previous elevations. These are what's existing, but previous, and this is the proposed elevations. The first proposed revision is this occurs at mid-block along both, well, this is along Pickney. We have kept the rusticated bases so that it aligns with the architecture up above. We've introduced this interior court. The interior court allows us to get from the sidewalk level to the second or the first floor, which is elevated about 4 to 5 feet above the sidewalk at this location. And to do that, we've got a series of steps and a ramp that leads to a raised interior court. That interior court allows multiple access points into that retail space. This is what the application looked like before. This is our proposed revisions. Again, trying to keep in alignment. We've studied the build. I'd like to say we're students in the building. We're trying to look at what was there to honor that and keeping the columns where they are, keeping the rusticated base as it is. And then these are some renderings that show that being articulated in 3D in color. So we're introducing some planters. You can see the steps. There's a step in the foreground. There's steps in the background there, and then the ramp that kind of goes behind the facade. In that, thinking that the materiality is just different in those interior courts. That there's a polishedness to it. It's mostly glass. There is some wood beam ceilings there with some lights and pendants. Again, the goal is to gain access to tenants and do that in a way that allows us to transverse the elevations of the current finished floor and the sidewalk, which was a challenge on this side. Again, 4 to 5 feet difference. The ground surfaces are those of landscape materiality, so it's an extension of the sidewalk. We're proposing bluestone in this case. And again, the interior court is a way to allow exterior access to ground floor's upper floor slab. It's really a sacrifice of interior condition space and giving that over to public realm and part of the public sidewalk. And it's a place for protection from the elements while still being outside. And again, it provides multiple entry points into those ground floor, which allows more flexibility and will, I think, allow a lot more retail tenant flexibility, which will help activate that 50th Street elevation. So that's revision one. Revision two is a repetition of this and bringing over to Meeting Street, similar design concepts. This lobby used to be an condition space, 1, 2, 3, big box, narrow down, then finally get to the elevator lobby. And it was purely interior, so it was very privatized. And again, we would like to propose having those first 2 boxes, this lobby and this lobby, be all exterior and reallocate that space to what used to be privatized for interior office use to be in more public exterior cafe or public space. This was the previous application. This is the new. You'll see that there's some wrought iron gates there. The idea is that they're 3-pair. All of those pairs open up so that we can secure that space as needed after business hours. This in rendering shows those gates open. And then the vision for that space would be, again, this is all outside, not conditioned. That would be a great place to house cafe seating or some sort of exterior space that would be suitable for a retail type tenant. And the finishes are kind of carried over from what we talked about previous. The glass surfaces are butt glazed structural sealed curtain wall, and the wood ceiling beamed with fans and with pendant lights to help give it a sense of character. And then the ground floor plane here is the marbled checkerboard pattern. And then these are supporting documents that kind of show that. This space is level with Meeting Street sidewalk, and it's also level with the first floor interior slab. So there's no need to transverse, this Meeting Street. There's no need to transverse any elevation. So it's all flush. Supporting documentation for all of the proposed leanings are also included. That is the general why as to what we're asking for tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. For questions? Questions? All right, thanks. Public comment. All right, city staff comments and recommendations, please.
Okay, first, what I should have mentioned is that applicant is only requesting revisions of the preliminary approval of exterior alterations. They are not requesting any sort of approvals other than the revisions we just discussed, which do not include the sidewalks, which are in fact in DRC review. Okay, thank you. With that, staff comments. Applicant previously received preliminary approval and with final review by staff by the board on April 9th of this year. Staff considered this change request to be significant enough to require board review as the applicant deals with flooding issues on site. The introduction of the courts in interior to the facades on Meeting Street and Pinckney with associated rusticated piers on the elevation mimic the expression happening at the chamfered corners and adds to the cohesion of the architectural direction on the ground floor. The new handrail introduced on Pinckney Street is specified as painted forged steel. The Meeting Street gates are not annotated as such, but staff understands from the applicant that they are meant to be constructed of the same material. Staff conditions include meeting street gates should in fact be made of painted forged steel that is also specified for the handrails on Pinckney Street. Any modifications to approved drawings required for code or fire department compliance or contemplated during construction must be approved by the BAR prior to undertaking the changes. Any modifications or substitutions to materials or the elements approved at the final BAR hearing must be specifically noted, reviewed, and approved on the mock-up sample panel. Deviations from the previously approved submission, if determined by BAR staff during or after completion of construction to be a downgrade of the quality of the project and inconsistent with previous approvals are not approved, whether noted or not by staff during our review of 4 permit drawings. A separate signage package will need to be submitted for all words and graphics to be placed on the building, as these are not considered part of any approvals or motions for this board discussion. And with that, staff's recommendation is of approval of revisions of the preliminary approval and final review by staff.
Thank you, Lawrence. Any response?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. All right, board discussion.
Just clarification, I guess.
Yeah.
Final review by staff, the whole project, or just this?
Well, it received preliminary, it did receive final review by staff. So, yes.
So
So it's, yes, it's not just limited for revision. Yeah, I'm with you.
yeah, I agree. So I'm okay with the modifications to both sides. I did want to ask, when's the last time that flooded?
Just as soon as maybe a month ago, when we had those big storms
And I,
on Pinckney, probably 2 feet deep.
I think it's, I like the plan. I think that, I think sorry. Yeah, I think that I just like the building. And so I think that the gates are too ornamental. And they should be much more simple and then not make the feature on the front of this building be the gates, but make it still be the building. And so something very, very simple. That's the only thing that I might, want to see that. It's not the rest of the project, I'm fine with that, and that's on both sides. I just feel like it could just be really simple and blend in, and you're opening that space up, and it's great. So, and I don't have anything to offer other than that, but.
I really like the building as well. And what I appreciate most about it is its symmetry, and that both conditions on either side of the building mimic each other or reflect each other. So the revision to the Pinckney Street side is actually disruptive to me. It also doesn't, in my opinion, activate the streetscape as it would, having the main entrance to the retail shops along the street. The revisions to the front of the building, though, I think are excellent. The simplicity of the general architectural design, actually like having a little bit more ornamental on the bottom end. So love that. Some distinction there, but it's the Pinckney elevation just doesn't match the rest of the building. I think it's disruptive.
I don't think it's disruptive. I get the mess of it, and I think it mitigates a flooding concern that's there. And I like the openness at the front, and I think the openness at the side is nice. I think it receives, and especially with the flooding concern, I'm supportive of the changes as they're proposed. In terms of the detail of the gate, honestly, I can see both sides of it. I don't know that I'm much help there.
Well, I agree with this, the same, and, introducing the decorative metal gate is actually kind of talking to Charleston. With all the ironwork and fences and things like that, so it's sort of and the space is exterior anyway. It's just has a roof, so it's I think it works as well, in my opinion.
All right. Does anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion for approval with board and staff comments, including simplifying the gates, so I might not be the second.
Second.
Would your motion include the dates only coming back to the board in their version, or?
Yeah. The rest of it, I think is great.
I can second that.
All right, Mr. Matter, so it's approval of the revision of the preliminary approval with board review. A more simplified gate and final, and then the rest, final review by staff.
The gate in the rail.
Always make them a little tougher. Board view of more simplified gate on the rail. Do I have that right? So if I've got it right, just make sure I do. Approval of the revision of the preliminary approval with board review of a more simplified gate and rail and final review by staff.
Good.
Mr. Tranton, is that the motion you were saying? All right. All right, Mr. Tranton, how you doing?
Yay in favor?
Mr. Brown,
No, not in favor.
Mr. Mudders?
Yeah.
Yeah, in favor.
And I am, no, not in favor. Motion passes.
Yeah,
What?
not in favor. You said,
Of that motion, that's correct. I don't think they need to be simplified, is what I'm saying.
okay, I'm changing. I'm busy, not in favor. Sorry.
So. Mr. Brown was not in favor. So that changes it. That motion does not pass. Is there an alternative motion?
You know, bring up a little.
Yeah, let's have some discussion.
Robert's rules. I'm not entirely sure that we can switch the vote like that. But I mean, I don't want to be that guy.
I don't know.
I mean, it wasn't completed. I mean, we're calling for it. It was still hers.
I'm just throwing that out there. And I have no motion to go.
Well, I'll make a second motion then for approval of a revision of preliminary approval and final review by staff.
I second that.
All right. The motion on the floor is approval of revision of preliminary approval and final review by staff. Mr. Trantham, how do you vote?
Yay in favor.
Mr. Brown,
I abstain.
Mr. Metters,
Okay, none.
Subject.
Yeah.
I'm also yay in favor. Motion passes.
I really like the way you opened it up. That's-
It's gonna be so cool. Thank you. Appreciate y'all's time. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right, and last but not least, we have,
No, yeah, we got
No.
more. We should be on these.
yes. Okay. Item P5, which is 205 Meeting Street. It is downtown. It is in the old and historic district. Applicant is requesting. Wait, it's.
This is B5 requesting revisions of preliminary approval of exterior alterations for
Yeah.
205.
Okay,
We have that. There we go. You want to show us in, we've got an overview. Thank you. You have the floor.
Good evening, Tori Joseph with Beachfront Hospitality. This is the Charleston Place Hotel project. If you guys recall back in 2023, when we issued for conceptual approval, we had included the clock tower, which is at the crest of our building on King Street. The conceptual approval was approved, but the clock tower design was not. We had originally proposed removing that glass roof structure and replacing it with a mansard roof that aligned with the adjacent architecture of our building. While that wasn't approved, we decided to proceed with construction of the project. And over the last 2 years, as you've probably noticed, we've completed the majority of the exterior renovations and the rest of it is currently underway. Now that the rest of that has been completed, including the King Street beautification, we'd like to revisit the glass roof structure on the clock tower because it is now even more prevalent to us and more apparent that it is in contrast with the rest of the building architecture. So we have revised our proposal and we've proposed a new solution that is a little bit more simple and again ties better to the overall structure, but also the adjacent city architecture.
Good evening. My name is Keith Simmel. I'm with Cooper Carey Architects, and I'll slide through these slides that illustrate what Tori referenced. So we can move through them pretty quickly to get to the images. The hotel was originally built in 1985. These are some images of the hotel from different angles, and you can see some of the beautification that has started to take place in areas that were previously approved by the BAR, including the replacement of the canopies at the corners here. Can't really see some of the other changes. The porte-cochere is under construction right now, and in the coming months, the design at the Market Street courtyard will begin to take place as well. As these things are happening, as Tori said, it's become more apparent that the glass pyramid feels out of place on this building that is really sort of restrained and a little bit more elegant with the changes that are happening. And so we were asked to take a look at alternate solutions for this glass pyramid. There's the location on the map. It's at the with the bend in King Street. And here's a view from the corner of King and Meeting. You can see the glass pyramid there, again, sort of sticks out like a sore thumb. Here's the proposal where the tower, everything below the top where the glass pyramid attaches to the building stays exactly as is. We have a new cornice that is similar to cornices that appear on the rest of the building, and a much simpler octagonal shaped roof with slate to match the slate on other parts of the building. Yeah, that's good. So here's a comparison of the existing condition on the left. The middle slide was the presentation from the previous submission that we made to this board with the mansard roof. That was the component that was not accepted by the BAR, and the image on the right hand side shows what our proposal is. Again, here we have the view from the from looking at King Street looking south with the pyramid. The view with the pyramidal glass piece removed, the new cornice at the top. The coloration is to match the color of the areas that are highlighted on the existing building, and be simpler, lower slope. So here's the existing previous design and the proposed design. Left to right. Here are the materials, and this is really just the materials are to match the existing conditions around the rest of the hotel. Slate on the roof, limestone cornice to match the existing color of the cornices, and brick where we need to infill where the existing cornice and the juncture of the glass and the top of the tower are being modified. We just patch and repair the brick to match what's existing. We can move through these drawings pretty quickly because I don't think that they really illustrate other than the location of the form itself. Right here. I just want to get to the elevations. Here we go. And these elevations really help illustrate how out of place the glass pyramid feels on the building. It's really the only postmodern structure, almost as if it was dropped on top of that clock tower. So that's on the top elevation, and then the bottom elevation is showing the proposed alteration to that roof. This is from Meeting Street, so it's kind of shielded by the building in front. So that's this is on the King Street side, so it's beyond on the far side of the elevations. Here's the Market Street elevation. So again, King Street is on your left. You see the pyramid in the distance, and then the simpler roof is being proposed. And then here's the King Street elevation. So again, how sort of unusual the glass pyramid looks, and the simpler roof on the bottom. I think that's it.
Thank you so much. Any questions for the board? All right, appreciate it. Any public comment? Great. City staff comments and recommendations, please.
Okay, as with other projects this evening, there is some as is history of the project, which staff has been given. And in terms of our current comments, they are as follows. The applicant received conceptual approval on March 8th of 2023. Approval for simple repairs and painting on October 13th of 23, and preliminary approval for rooftop elements on February 5th of 24, and preliminary approval for all other work on April 9th of this year. Board and staff comments from the conceptual approval included the existing clock tower with glass pyramid and clock tower and clock faces will remain. The tower and the roof form are perceived as a landmark that is highly visible. Staff is not opposed to a change in materiality of the tower roof from the glass to perhaps a flat seamed shiny metal that might emulate the glass, but we are opposed to the removal and reconfiguration of the glass tower. Staff conditions. If board approves any design changes not currently shown in this middle package, the applicant would be required to provide a new submittal with details of those design elements for final review by staff. And our recommendation is the denial of the application as submitted.
All right, thank you. Any response?
Yeah. I think while we recognize that the glass pyramid is perceived as a highly visible landmark, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's good. It's unusual, and all the work that's going on in the building, I think is elevating the perception of this building, and it just makes this glass pyramid stick out as a sore thumb more than it even does today. And we would ask that the board consider what we're proposing as an alternate to that glass pyramid.
Thank you. All right, board discussion.
Yeah, I'll start.
Thanks.
I completely disagree. And the roof above the clock tower and the tower itself was purposeful to the original design, whether you like it or not. It was set in the curve of King Street. And, you know, I watched it go up, and I watched a lot of things go up. Some of them I like, some of them I don't, but it was a big part of that design, set purposefully. Some previous to board decisions, and if not board decisions, certainly my decisions were made you know, the number of times that you've come here asking for modifications to a plan that's already been approved. I made some decisions based on the fact that you said that you would keep that tower, right? And, so I would propose denial on both. So that's my position.
I totally agree. It's a matter of opinion, what is good, what is not good, and architecture, so I guess. But this tower, yes, it's different than the rest of it in some ways. There's the pyramid of glass, but it's also tower. It's also clock tower, so it's a kind of landmark for the whole building. And again, it's specifically when it was designed, where it was put it on its axis of King Street, you always see it, you always recognize it. So it has its life until now, and hopefully it will stay. As far as the changing material, possibly, I don't know, but metal probably will work. But it still will be trial. Nevertheless, proportions and form of the pyramid is, I think, essential for this tower. It's chopped off how it's designed now. It doesn't make sense to me. So I'm in agreement with
Okay.
board member and staff.
Yes, thank you. Any other comments on that side?
I agree completely, and I
Yeah.
don't know that I have anything to add. I mean, if it were to be a different material, then I would say it probably would not be reviewed by staff. It'd need to be reviewed by board. So it would come back anyways in any type of an application. So I don't know that I agree with review by staff if it's any other material. So, but I agree completely.
I agree also. It is as iconic as the name Charleston Place as well. So it has a prominent place on King Street. It has a prominent place in the memory of people who are visiting our city. It's a unique design or unique architectural feature that I think should be celebrated rather than removed.
It's actually hinges everything what is around. It's
Okay. Well, I'll make a motion then for denial as proposed.
I was like,
Mr. Trantham, how do you vote?
Yay in favor?
Mr. Brown,
Yay in favor.
Mr. Metters,
there you go.
so Chuck,
the
also you in favor. All right, thank you. It takes us to B6, 176 Concord Street.
Now, last but not least. Number 176 Concord, which is in the Ports area. It is Height District's 5630B. It is in the Old and Historic District. And applicant is requesting an appeal of staff's denial of a neon sign. Or a faux neon sign and an illuminated sign. Mr. Rich.
All right, thank you.
I'm Ted Rich with Architect with Beaumont Hospitality Collection. And as Lawrence mentioned, we had a staff comment on our sign. I think it's the standard request for the city ordinance for signage to not have the illuminated signage. And if it is proposed to be illuminated, it needs to go to the board. So that's what we're doing. I'll go through this. These are just a few reference images from around Charleston Historic District.
So how many of those are neon?
A few.
I went and looked at them and I had some of them.
Mr. Metters, let's let him present and then we can ask some questions.
Yeah, now, Yeah, I was just looking at illuminated signs, not specifically neon signs, just as a reference to show. So there
Yeah,
are
no,
some in
that's
the, in the historic district. And then I kind of learned, I went to the BAR signage meeting the other day and learned that some of them probably, weren't approved at the board. So it's probably not a great reference to have some of these in here, but just wanted to do a little study to see what we have in the historic district in terms of illuminated signs. So the site itself is, Cooper Hotel. The current burger is on the southeast corner of the building, so it's going to be visible on the waterfront park side. The riverfront walk extension is going to extend past the waterfront pier up northward towards landing. And then here's a closer up image of the plan. Forgot to put the north arrow here, but north is to the left. So the sign will be, as you can see, pretty close proximity to the riverfront walk. There's a lot of landscaping around there. It's heavily vegetated, so the sign is actually, there's one blade sign on the corner, and then there's also a flat sign on the building facade. And then this is a previous sign that was proposed on the building. And then this is our another previous proposed sign for the burger bar, now called Current Burger. The inspiration behind Current Burger comes from kind of a nostalgic 1950s Rexall drug store where you can go up to a counter and have, like, we have soda taps and milkshakes and burgers. It's called Current Burger. So it's a locally owned business. It's not a chain coming in trying to put up a loud sign. So this is what we're proposing on the corner for the blade sign. We think it's elegant and understated. It's not too loud, but in fact, we did want to have it illuminated. So here's an image of what we're trying to achieve at night. It's a subtle illumination. So we've got it designed at like 2700 Kelvin. And it's not intended to light up the whole block, but it is intended to have that nostalgic feel of a neon sign, although it's not actually a neon sign. It's more of a abstract interpretation of that retro sign. So, and then we have some more detailed drawings. We think the scale and proportion of the sign works well with the building, and yeah, there's more information in here. We need to look at some of the details. The sign is, it's a custom powder coated aluminum, and then the light itself is a acrylic that is in the cutouts. So it's a painted acrylic to get the effect there. And then concealed fasteners, and like I said, the color temperature is more subtle and toned down. It's not intended to be like a super loud neon sign. All right.
Great, thank you so much. Hold there, we might have a few questions. I stopped Mr. Metters, but I'll let him now have his.
I'm sure you
have some
were as
floor.
surprised as I was, because I don't think some of those signs have been approved that were up. I think somebody just put them up.
Yeah,
I didn't,
unfortunately.
yeah, that's what I was wondering if you checked, because I was surprised when I saw it and I went and looked and I was like, wow, I don't think any of these got approval.
Needs to be more enforcement, I guess.
Any other questions from the board?
Well, and it might be more of a staff question. The current letters that are there, they are not illuminated, correct? In the current approval, the letters that are shown are not back illuminated or anything. It's just, I'm just looking at the burger.
The blade sign?
No, not the blade sign, but the letters on the building is, I think, what was,
I think that was just
Yeah,
a reference.
everything that has been reviewed and has been approved is not illuminated, no.
Well, just a quick clarification, because Burger Bar, I don't think was ever That was just an acknowledgement that that's what it was going to be. It wasn't part of what we approved.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it said previous staff review. That's what I was just trying
Oh,
to figure
yeah,
out
yeah.
on the bottom corner. That was that. Yeah.
Where are we, Mr. Chairman? I forgot. Where are we in the?
We're, right. We're way out of order. Thank you. I'm falling asleep over here.
Me too.
My apologies to everybody. All right, public comment. Do we have any public comment? I was ready to skip all of this. All right, I want to make sure we didn't have any. All right, city staff comments, recommendations.
Staff comments. Staff has in fact reviewed signage for most of this project, excluding that in the public right of way, which is under DRC purview. The overall signage has been largely simple and even elegant, with staff only asking for revisions to a proposed monument sign as well as this sign. The sign at which we are looking this evening is for a mid 20th century themed burger joint / soda fountain restaurant, and is shown to be illuminated, and board sign policies discourage illuminated signage in historic districts, and it is staff policy to bring any illuminated signage before the board. Staff finds that the sign is incompatible with the generally traditional language of the overall projects stylistically, and inappropriate to its context along the extended riverfront park and harbor. Staff conditions include applicant needs to provide missing the vehicular entry monument sign and uniform tenant signage package along Concord Street going forward. We have not yet. The new restaurant signage should generally match either tenant signage at Concord Street or the overall project-based food and beverage venue signage already approved. And our recommendation is applicants should generally match the standardized tenant signage for the new restaurant with board and staff comments and final review by staff.
Thank you so much. Any response?
Oh, I would just like to clarify. Well, I think you're asking for the vehicular entrance monument sign that was looked at staff. We have that in redesign right now. And we think that that is gonna meet all the staff requirements and that could be handled at staff level.
Yeah.
And then we also have tenant signage package for the retail side on Concord Street, which we think will be handled at staff level. We don't see anything that
Okay.
is gonna. So we think that this current burger sign would be the only one that would require any sort of board review, so,
Yes,
It's premature.
okay.
yeah. And we didn't really want it to, be part of the retail signs because it's a little bit of a different, character. And obviously, it's a little bit different from our other, food and beverage venues on the project, so that's why we pulled it apart to separate it.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that. All right, board discussion, please.
I'll keep going. I think that you said it, for me anyway, you said it as you were talking, that this is on the waterfront park and it's on the water. And just those two things for me mean that you don't want it to be lighted, you don't want it to be called out. So other than that, I love the building, I love everything about it, appreciate the investment that everybody's made. But it's magnificent, it's, by itself. And but it's on the water and on the water.
Anybody else?
I guess what I'm saying, this was submitted prior to the whole package, so it's premature. We cannot compare it to what is whole package. So in a way, it's hard to make a decision because we need to look at the whole package. To me,
I kind of thought Ted wanted it to be different.
Well,
Yeah.
the whole package goes back years. And so the whole package has been reviewed by staff, except for the parts which are in fact under DRC purview, which is the extension of Riverfront Park.
so why do we mention?
And we have not seen the tenant signage along
Yeah.
Concord. And we have not seen, we have seen and rejected a monument sign at the vehicular entrance along Concord Street.
Okay,
yeah.
so I should say not whole package, but the 10. Package.
But it's also my understanding that's all at staff level and wouldn't make it to the board. The only reason any of this is before us is because they are not agreeing with the staff decision. So it's now come to the board for us to determine whether or not the staff decision was appropriate and they want the board to consider
But everything we did, look at it and all that, we look at the context.
that. You want the full context. I understand that. I don't think you're gonna get that here. You can ask, but yeah, I mean, we've got to deal with what we've got.
I don't say that we need to look at it, but at least it could be something showing comparison that I don't know. But we are looking at the whole context.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say for me, the illumination there, given the location is something I'm not in favor of and would support staff's decision.
I would agree with that. And nothing else to add.
Yeah, blade and size and design is nice. Seems to be working well, but illumination is, I guess that's what we're looking at, so yes.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's the extent of illumination. And I totally understand on the waterfront park side, because you don't want a big, not saying that this is neon, but a huge neon sign out there advertising for burgers when you're trying to, enjoy the waterfront. But the Griffin just down the way has a bright sign outside with illumination, but it's very muted. And I can understand that this, I would suspect, correct me if I'm wrong, we're looking for signage because you expect both the guest and the public to be visiting. Yeah. So, and as it relates to the remainder of the signage and in the context of that I don't think we need to worry about that. It should be separate. It's a separate, it's its own brand, if you will. It doesn't necessarily need to match the rest of the resort in that sense. So I mean, that my biggest concern, I don't think I'm against the illumination. I'm curious of the extent of the illumination, if that makes sense.
Is there a sign, any type of sign on the door?
On the door, there's.
If you don't mind stepping up, sorry.
There's some small vinyl graphics around the facade. I don't know if there's anything exactly on the door, but you can see them in the rendering, kind of on the glass.
So, in evening, when it's in use, the glass, you have a light, you have a sign, so nobody will not find the
Right.
burger.
Yeah, ours, it wasn't really for wayfinding. It was more just to kind of drive up the concept of the current burger, so.
Yeah. And I get that. I just don't think that amount of illumination going for that closer to neon look, I understand it's slightly subdued and technically neon, but I think that while it fits the brand, I don't know that it fits the location for me. So I guess, it's a little bit different.
Making a motion to deny the appeal.
Right.
That-
Yeah, I mean, so that's what I'm curious about procedurally, Lawrence. Do we need to deny the appeal and then make a motion related to any other recommendations? Do you know?
Yes, if you wish to do that, that's fine. Yes.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion because I don't want to get in their business about
Right.
the other signs, so
Yeah,
I'm making a motion to deny the appeal, but that's it, and they can continue to develop whatever.
with
whatever-
staff.
With staff.
Yeah, I think that's the simplest
Yes.
way to deal with it.
Yeah.
All right. So there's a motion to deny the appeal. Is there a second? That's made by Mr. Metters.
I would second that.
All right. All right, Mr. Trantham, how do you vote?
Yay in favor.
Or let me restate it. The motion is to deny the appeal. How do you do it, Mr. Trantham?
Yay in favor.
Mr. Brown?
No, not in favor.
Mr. Metters?
Yeah, in favor.
Ms. Substitute?
Yeah, in favor.
I'm also yay in favor. The motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,